Dreamboat's an extension of a body of work called Life Echo, and Life Echo is a process where I can turn positive memories into soundscapes, so people can access these soundscapes at times when they feel troubled or traumatised, or they have high levels of anxiety. However, an opportunity came collaborating with the Ikon about how we could use sleep time as a way of creative intervention. So Dreamboat is that chance, and it was a chance to experiment with merging memory and dream together, because there's a fine line between a memory and a dream. So we wanted to see if we could actually manipulate people's dreams to turn into memories that are not their own, and traverse that grey area between memory and dream. So at the beginning of the evening, we were on the slow boat, and we had kind of like a briefing of what was going to happen. We had snacks which were to stimulate the sleeping process. So there was chickpeas, there was special cookies which were delicious. The conversation centred around why we're doing this experiment. There was a feeling of the whole thing being underground science, because of what was going to happen, and there's a whole feeling that it wasn't happening at all, because it's a really unusual situation to be sat on a boat and explain to people that they're going to have their dream time interfered with the sounds of other people's memories. After we had the debriefing and the sleep snacks, we went over to the boatel, which was our lab for the night. The rooms had been set out for the participants. Each one had an individual room. On the pillow there was a sleep mask and headphones, an MP3 player with the soundscape on. The front of the boat was the pop-up lab, where me, Emma and Dagmar had set up the computer and the software and the headset. One of the participants had a headset on, so he could read the EEG recordings of the brainwave activity, so we could monitor how the brain was being affected by the experiment. So after everyone got settled down in their rooms, I took them out on the back of the boat and I placed on them a sub-pack, and the sub-pack is a haptic vest, and it vibrates in sync to sound. And so we sat in a circle at the back of the boat, and I played the frequencies of the moon into the backpacks. So they had a massage from lunar frequencies. Each planet produces a frequency. It was at that moment that I think the participants realised that this was an unusual experience. Because whereas before on the boat, the conversation was flowing with expectancy and adventure, there was almost like a retrospective silence that was happening, and the preparation, the mindfulness preparation of what was to happen, happened during that moment, during the moon massage. And then the saffron pills came out. Then after that they were put to bed, so I visited each one in their rooms, and just made sure they're okay, that they're happy, warm, and ready for the experiment to begin. Yeah, so the evening produced a massive amount of information and documentation. So we filmed each participant by placing a CCTV camera over the bed, so we could film their entire motion. So we're presenting that work on one of the walls. So we're presenting a blog written by Lauren Darknell, who maps out her journey, the participants' journey. We have interviews, pre-experience and post-experience, so we can measure the effect that the experiment had. And it's interesting to see that one of the effects was 3 of the members of the group had the same dream. So that kind of like forces the theoretical point that I had of we can turn a memory into a dream and a dream into a memory. We also have on the top the brainwave recordings from one of the individuals, and we also have a short documentary as well. So as part of my research fellowship at University of Birmingham, one of the collaborative partnerships we wanted to explore is with the sleep science part of this experiment. So that allowed us to use equipment that we would normally have access for, so we could read brainwave activity. The idea is that if we film the participant asleep and we have the participant's brainwave activity recorded and we have the sound file, then we could be able to measure the brainwave activity response to the sound and to the movement. So we could actually see at what points we were interfering with the sleep and the dreamscape. It also allows us to present the work going forwards with the possibility of, if we can eventually prove that we've changed a dream into a memory, then there's a greater conversation to be had of how we can use that process to help people possibly with early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. One of the early concepts of Life Echo was using flotation tanks for people to experience the sound work in flotation tanks. Dreamboat allowed us to contain people in a familiarised space to be part of an experiment, because sometimes with experimentation, and I've been part of sleep labs myself, you're in an environment which is not conducive to sleep and it's unfamiliar and it doesn't become something that you become emotionally attached to. And it's important, that kind of emotional attachment to an experience. So the next step moving forwards is an idea I want to push called Dream Hotel, and that's to have a full hotel with people doing this experiment where we're playing the soundscapes and have everybody's brainwave activity measured all at once. So the whole night would be a greater scale of what we've done on the Dreamboat, but we would have a full supper together. We'd put everybody together. Each floor of the hotel would be assigned a special sleep nurse who could help them through the process. We'd play the soundscapes, but then in the morning we'd have a collective breakfast and talk about the work. And that means we could capture bigger data scales as well.